You pull the package off the shelf. You put it in your cart. You bring it home. At no point does anything on that package tell you what happened to that bird in the hour before it was sealed. 27 countries decided they did not want to find out the hard way. They banned it. Not because of what is in the chicken, because of what had to be done to it before it could be sold. That gap between what happened and what the label says is what this video is about. Every year, Americans consume more chicken than any other protein. More than beef, more than pork, more than fish. It sits in your grocery cart every week. It goes into your children's lunch. You cook it without thinking. That is exactly the condition the system depends on. In 2014, researchers tested more than 300 packages of raw chicken breast purchased at stores across the country. They found harmful bacteria in 97 out of every 100 packages. That is not 97% of untreated chicken. That is 97% of the chicken already treated with antimicrobial washes and released for sale. The washes happened. The bacteria remained. More than half of those packages contained fecal contaminants. Nearly half contained bacteria resistant to 3 or more families of antibiotics. All of the major national brands were represented. Packages labeled organic. Packages labeled no antibiotics. The label did not change the result. The chlorine was there. So was everything else. Europe looked at this system and reached a conclusion in 1997. That conclusion has not changed. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what that conclusion was and why it was not really about the chlorine at all. You will know what to look for at the grocery store. You will know which label claims mean something and which ones mean nothing. You will know the one question that cuts through every marketing word on a chicken package. What you will not know is why no one told you this sooner. That part you will have to figure out yourself. Here is what actually happens inside a large-scale chicken processing plant. A bird enters the facility alive. Within minutes, it is slaughtered, defeathered, and eviscerated on a moving line. The line moves fast. One federal inspector covers every carcass sorted by plant employees on a single line. The ratio is one government eye to multiple sets of hands. During evisceration, the intestinal tract is opened. Bacteria live in the intestinal tract. When the line moves faster than careful handling allows, contents transfer to the carcass surface. This is not a failure of the process. This is the process at scale. At the end of the line, the carcass enters a chilling tank. The tank brings the temperature down rapidly before packaging. Into that tank, some facilities add chlorine, up to 50 parts per million. To put that in terms you can picture, your tap water contains about 4 parts per million. The chicken bath is more than 10 times stronger than what comes out of your kitchen faucet. The chlorine kills surface bacteria. That part works. What it does not do is reach inside the carcass. Contamination that penetrated beneath the surface stays there. What it also does not do is address why the bacteria were on the surface in such concentrations to begin with. Here is the part that most people carry without knowing it. When bacteria are killed on the surface, the normal competing microorganisms go with them. What grows back fastest in that cleared environment is often more aggressive. Research has found that nearly half of salmonella isolated from retail chicken in the United States resists 3 or more classes of antibiotics. 3 or more classes means the first treatment your doctor prescribes may fail. The second may fail too. You are not eating contaminated chicken because the system is broken. You are eating antibiotic-resistant contaminated chicken because the system is working exactly as designed. Consider whether you have ever eaten fully cooked chicken and still felt something the next day. Not dramatic food poisoning. A mild unease. A digestive disruption you attributed to something else. The bacteria found in nearly half of all retail chicken packages tested produces symptoms that feel like a bad day rather than an illness. It is also the most underreported foodborne pathogen in the country. Most people recover and move on. Most people never know what they recovered from. In 2017, the National Chicken Council, the industry's primary lobbying body in Washington, formally petitioned the U.S. government to allow faster processing line speeds in chicken slaughterhouses. Multiple trade associations submitted nearly identical letters of support. The language in those letters described faster lines as a step forward in food safety. The logic works like this. Faster lines produce more volume. More volume reduces cost per unit. Lower cost maintains market position and the contamination that comes with faster handling. That gets addressed at the end. That is what the chlorine is for. The largest poultry company in the country spent more than $9 million on federal lobbying in the 5 years leading up to that petition. $9 million buys sustained access to the people who write the rules that govern what ends up in your grocery cart. You pay for that access every time you buy chicken, in the gap between the label and what it does not say. In April 2025, the government agency responsible for meat inspection proposed a framework to set meaningful contamination limits for salmonella in poultry. More than 7,000 comments arrived from industry stakeholders describing the proposal as regulatory overreach. The agency withdrew the framework. The same month, European officials were asked whether American chicken would be permitted into their markets under updated trade terms. The British government's official answer: never. The European position has never been that chlorine kills you. Their own food safety authority concluded that the chemical treatment itself presents no public health risk. The position is more precise than that. If you allow a chemical fix at the end of the line, you remove the financial pressure to solve the problem at the beginning of the line. You reward volume over hygiene. You make contamination a cost of doing business rather than a failure of the system. Europe chose a different model: vaccination of flocks before slaughter, mandatory biosecurity at the farm level, hygiene standards applied upstream, not downstream. By 2010, 22 European countries had reduced salmonella contamination in their broiler flocks to below 1%. Below 1% means fewer than 1 flock in 100 carries the pathogen before slaughter. The United States, with chlorine as its primary tool, held salmonella contamination rates at retail between 11 and 16% across a 15-year period without movement. That is not a slow decline. That is a flat line. What the two systems produce is not different levels of safety. They produce different incentives. One system rewards solving the problem. The other system rewards managing it. You were told the chicken was treated. That is true. Antimicrobial solutions were applied to the carcass before packaging. You can find documentation confirming this in federal regulatory directives. The treatment happened. What you were not told is what the treatment rate of success actually looks like on a shelf. In 97 out of 100 packages, the treatment left behind organisms that could make you sick. In nearly half of those packages, the organisms left behind cannot be treated with the antibiotics your doctor would reach for first. The treatment is real. The protection is not. You are also told that the label tells you what you need to know. The word natural appears on millions of chicken packages. It is not regulated in any way that affects what you are reading here. A chicken treated with antimicrobial solutions, raised at densities with no federal stocking limits, processed on a line moving faster than individual inspection allows, that chicken can carry the word natural on its packaging. The label is legally correct. It is also functionally empty. Packages labeled organic showed contamination rates similar to conventional chicken in the same study. The difference between organic and conventional chicken, in the context of this specific problem, is price. Here is the thing that the European ban actually says when you read it carefully. It does not say American chicken is poison. It does not say chlorine is dangerous. It says this: if you need to decontaminate the product at the end, you are not actually controlling the process. You are cleaning up after it. And if you are cleaning up after it, you have no incentive to stop making the mess. The federal agency responsible for meat inspection cannot mandate a recall of contaminated chicken. It can recommend one. The recommendation is voluntary. In a system where the end-of-line treatment is approved, where contamination rates have not moved in 15 years, and where the agency charged with oversight withdrew its own proposed limits under industry pressure, the chicken on your shelf is exactly as safe as that system produces. You are not buying safe chicken. You are buying chicken that was decontaminated. Those are not the same thing. The core problem is simple. The U.S. system applies a chemical fix at the end of a process that creates contamination throughout. The fix does not fully work. The process does not change, and the label does not tell you any of this. Here is what you can actually do with that information. First, ignore the word natural entirely. It carries no regulatory meaning for poultry in this context. A chicken processed through every stage described in this video can legally be called natural. When you see that word, read past it. Second, the label claim that does carry meaning is raised without antibiotics, but only if it appears alongside the phrase USDA process verified. Without that government verification marker, the claim is self-reported by the producer. Self-reported means no one checked. Third, look for air chilled on the packaging. Air chilling is a process where carcasses are cooled by cold air rather than submerged in a communal water tank. It eliminates the shared bath where cross-contamination between carcasses occurs. It also eliminates the need for antimicrobial additives in the chilling step. The label will say it clearly when it applies. If the label does not say air chilled, the chicken was chilled in water. Fourth, ask your butcher or store one question. What processing plant does this come from? You do not need to research the plant yourself. Asking the question tells you something about whether the store knows or cares. Stores that source from traceable producers can answer that question. Stores that cannot answer it are telling you something too. Fifth, organic certification does not solve the contamination problem by itself. The study found contamination rates in organic chicken comparable to conventional. Organic governs what the bird was fed and whether antibiotics were used in its lifetime. It does not govern what happens to the carcass on the processing line. A bird raised organically can be processed conventionally. Look for air-chilled and organic together if you want both. The European model demonstrated that a different outcome is possible. 22 countries reduced flock contamination below 1% without a single chlorine tank. They did it by treating the beginning of the process as the problem, not the end. That is available to any system willing to accept that cleaning up after contamination and preventing contamination are not the same job. Safe chicken exists. The label just never had to tell you which kind you were buying.